in this session. Learning Blade, welcome to a Learning Blade presentation. We are a brand new free resource in your state and through the Mississippi Department of Education, the University of Southern Mississippi, and we got funding coming out of the governor's GEAR funding. And so this is now available to schools statewide. What it is a grades 5 through 9 standards aligned. So we're aligned to standards in English, math, social studies, and science. And 5 through 9 standards aligned, STEM, computer science, and CTE career awareness resource. So we are practicing those middle school 9th grade standards, but while exposing students to STEM, computer science, and really the CTE pathways in that STEM-rich environment. Our goal is, my title of my slides is students can't be what they can't see. Maybe you want to type in the chat box what that means to you. But really, I like to would love to see what you guys think about that. Students can't be what they can't see. I like to use the chat box as a quick, conversation starter as we're going throughout the presentation. But we'll see what people type there. But it's pretty an obvious statement. Students need to be inspired in something. They need to know it exists, right? They want to be YouTubers and social media influencers, TikTokers, because they've been exposed to TikTok and social media. So our goal is hoping that if we model, as Melissa says, if we can model how math and science are used in these amazing problem-solving STEM and computer science careers, then students will say, hey, I've seen that, I've been exposed to that, I'm more interested in that. And our research shows that that is actually what it does. So let's jump into it. I'm gonna essentially start at the 40,000 foot view and then give you the overview of the program. Then I'm gonna go log in as a student and give you a student experience, and then log in as a teacher and show you what teachers can do with all the features and functions in Learning Blade, and answer your questions as we go. So thank you, Susie. We have to open their doors, Susie says. Oops, we have to open the doors for our students and expose them to multiple opportunities. Absolutely. And as Tiffany says, they need to be exposed to different things. And that's kind of what we're trying to do. And as you guys know, as educators, there's a disparity in exposure based on low income versus middle income, the 6,000 hour gap of learning. There's a disparity sometimes for girls versus boys, for minorities versus non-minority students. So there's a lot of different issues out there, and exposure, I find, in so many of the STEM programs, trainings I go to, and is important. Exposure is critical. And so Dr. Carrie Wright, Superintendent of Education, was in our recent press release quoted as saying, Learning Blade's a great addition to our initiatives to improve a student achievement, especially as they support core academics, which we do, and help increase proficiency. Students having the chance to see the relationship between these academics and careers is better preparing the work phase. So that's our secret sauce, doing middle school standards aligned questions, but in the context of a STEM career. And so that's really, the sauce that we're putting out there. So any school, if you don't already, can gain access in district. I see some of you are district people, by going to learningblade.com. I have that spelled wrong, my bad. So I'm gonna fix that because that's embarrassing. I'm going to learningblade.com learningblade.com/MS, and you can get your free license to Learning Blade or your district's license. We do have Clever, we have Schoology, and so we can align that way as well to quickly turn it on. So there's a lot of chances to get into Learning Blade. I think this is just sort of setting the stage. Perkins 5, which if you're into CTE and you understand the CTE pathway, Gracie, I can email you the PowerPoint to everyone that's here today and puts their email in the chat box, no problem. And so Perkins 5 is the CTE funds for the nation, funded by the federal government, $1 billion worth of grants and what have you. But they've now changed and said it is now a requirement to provide career exploration and career development through an organized systematic framework in the middle grades. So I was a middle school math science teacher for 10 years. I had never heard of CTE or Perkins, really, but now it's coming down because there's a recognition at the national level, but also at the local level, that students need exposure to careers and the technologies, the pathways, to understand what the opportunities are. And if and as you guys are well aware, middle schoolers ask what question all the time? The $1 million question. When will I ever use this? They're asking it all the time. They're asking for relevance. And so what we're trying to do is provide a system of lessons that does that career piece, but is adding the relevance of how standards connect. So this is my one big soapbox slide, and then we'll dig into Learning Blade. But women and minorities are underrepresented in the STEM workforce. A lot of research out there, particularly the National Academies of Science, have written reports on expanding underrepresented participation in STEM. And they talk about how career exposure at an early age and understanding the paths that are available and the way you use your skills is critical. Go ahead, Edna. Do you have a comment on that?
No, I don't.
Okay, no problem. I just saw you unmuted. Okay. And so that's really, a critical thing. Google wrote a report in 2014, how to get more girls into computer science. Number one way, expose them to computer science. Number two way, encourage them. Hey, you could be good at that someday. So, it's pretty straightforward that career exposure matters. And that's why we're seeing this shift, I think, in a lot of schools and in education to say, hey, how can we provide relevance and show real world problem solving in the real world context? So that way the standards make a little more sense. I will also just point out, and this is a personal point of, I think, pride or an epiphany. When I was a middle school teacher, and I never talked about community college because I was a math science teacher and I did not understand that STEM careers come out of community college. You got welders, you got mechanics, you got mechatronics, you got assembly line, you got all these skilled trades, you've got computer science, healthcare. So Learning Blade's going to help all teachers show students that STEM does not mean PhD geek, it means opportunities abound. And so we really want to show that to students. So our goal is to address the lack of career awareness in students at a critical time, middle school, 9th grade, depending on where it fits. In gifted and talented programs also use Learning Blade, but really try and fit it in as a supplemental program to expose students to these careers. We find that 94% research-based of middle school students make career-related decisions. That blows my mind. They're 12. What do they know, right? They're making decisions based on what they've been exposed to up to that point in their life. Do I want to try hard in math today? Does science matter? What electives do I take? What do I do after school? So they're not maybe saying what career they're choosing, but they're making choices as they become more independent, and those choices will affect their trajectory. And so that's what we want to do. We want to contextualize the learning by providing all 400 online lessons, around 100 careers and technologies that expose students to the math, science, English, technology, and how it all interrelates, but aligned to state standards and searchable by state standard. The way we do that is we have 12 missions. Each mission is 8 to 10 hours of online lessons around the theme of the mission, which is problem solving in a particular real world scenario. So down south, you guys might be aware of a Winter, the dolphin with a prosthetic tail. So we have a dolphin rescue mission that talks about biomedicine and the machinist that builds the prosthetic, and the scuba diver that works in the tank, and the veterinarian so we're showing the careers that solve a real world problem. After an earthquake in Haiti, which unfortunately just occurred again, who goes in and designs buildings that are safe, that are reliable? That's civil engineers, that's contractors, that's architects. So we're showing students those careers, technologies on down the list. Real world problems like getting more fresh food to your community through agriculture and local food production. Whether you're solving a pandemic, we have a pandemic lesson not about COVID. It's about the flu outbreak, and it connects to the historical pandemics, but it also talks about what is a vaccine? How are they made? How do we know they're safe? Those sorts of things. And so we've got those lessons here. And then computer science lessons. We have our hack attack mission is all about your school's been hacked. What are the careers? What are the technologies in CS that are going to help you, A, be exposed at an early age to computer science opportunities, but B, that solve real world problems. So all of these are different missions, and they look at those different career clusters: energy, agriculture, transportation sector is changing. We've got lessons on that. Advanced manufacturing is not what it used to be. So we've got all of these lessons, 8 to 10 hours online, and then a whole suite of resources offline to support the 21st century skills of collaboration, communication, problem solving, critical thinking, you name it. So we call it our toolbox. Each mission has online lessons and career videos. And the videos are cool because they show the earnings potential for that career, really exposing students to the fact that STEM careers make more money than your traditional career paths. But we'll also have challenge projects, which are specifically designed, hear this, specifically designed to be recyclable, no cost materials like a box of paper clips and some paper, or paper towel rolls and some straws. So not like kit based, but just sort of, we call them kitchen sink based, basic supplies your students could bring in, or you might, find at the grocery store at a super low cost to do hands-on challenges with the students. If any of you have 3D printers, we've got incredible lessons for 3D printers. I have some right here. I had some right here. I'll show you later. But also, we are awarding any school this year, every school. It's not a raffle. It's every single school that completes 5,000 of our mini lessons, and I'll explain that in a second. But they're 10 minutes long. You got 100 students. You finished, 200 in a day. In 10 days, you finish 2,000. So any school that completes 5,000 lessons, we will send you a FlashForge Adventure 3 Lite 3D printer, heated bed, Wi-Fi enabled, very nice. So that's just one of our little features this year. We have a nice partnership with FlashForge, so we'll do that. And we've given away over 200 3D printers. We have design thinking lessons. These are what engineers do to solve a problem. They follow a design thinking process. So we have the 5-step engineering process set as an open-ended prompt for students to follow, and then do some projects together with their peers. Coding activities, we have some offline coding activities and over 100 computer science lessons online. And then we have parent discussions, a way of engaging parents about the career paths the students are learning about, their interest in those careers, and just, we call it table talk, sending home a conversation starter at the dinner table. Research-based strategy, right? And then Minecraft. So kids still love Minecraft. So we've engaged a little bit. We have got net designs for the math teachers that fold up, cut up into 3-dimensional Minecraft figures. Okay, so before I go into the whole Learning Blade, we're now coming down to like 5,000 foot view. I do want to say we have a resource for Chromebook schools. Right now, it's just for Chromebooks, that you can use an app in the Google Play Store, and it allows students to download the lessons and work offline at home. So if you have students that are internet insecure, they go home they've got the Chromebook, but they don't have internet at home, there's still schools that we find have that issue. Learning Blade has tried to resolve it in our own way, which is making this whole system available offline, downloadable. So our goal is to introduce students to a wide range of STEM, CS, and CTE technologies and careers through an online game-based sort of platform, accessible via the internet. We have a variety of downloadable resources as well. So we've got paper handouts, student handouts, rubrics, all that. It's designed research-based to motivate really all students, but in particular, we did a lot of particular things to motivate minorities and girls and rural students who we know need the exposure to STEM careers. And as well, really all students, this generation of students are looking for how to be problem solvers, how to make the world a better place. And Learning Blade shows them that STEM is a way to do that. Learning Blade analyzes the student's skills and provides reports to the teacher on all their performance and over 200 hours of curriculum. So a lot to pick and choose from. I think of it as a giant buffet. If anyone's familiar with Keytrain and Career Ready 101 for ACT Work Keys, the team here at Learning Blade were the creators of that program as well, those programs as well. That was acquired by ACT. So if you know the quality of Keytrain, then you'll understand the quality of Learning Blade. That's for anyone that's familiar with that in that CTE world. All right, so now what I want to do is really talk about the 12 missions and answer any questions. Feel free to answer any questions in the chat box. Or ask questions in the chat box. But I'm going to show you some of our mission diagrams. The mission diagrams are essentially, they're trying to show you the interdisciplinary nature of the program. So you can see here on flu outbreak, I want to make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Yep. On flu outbreak, our pandemic lessons, students learn about vaccines and epidemiologists, but we also are connecting it with computer science, big data, GIS, the mapping of the spread of a disease, social media, how we share information about these viruses and the misinformation, statisticians. So we're connecting careers to solving a real world problem, right? You'll notice if we look at anthropologists, for example, there's a science lesson, an English lesson, a social studies lesson, and a math lesson. So each of those lessons is about 10 to 12 minutes long. So they're little mini chunks this is why teachers love it. And why I've had handfuls of teachers say Learning Blade's a lifesaver because it's pre-planned 10-minute chunked activities. Who doesn't need that in their class? Early finishers, a great bell ringer for the start of class. It can be a nice, easily delivered homework assignment. I call them anchor units. It can be that anchor unit that sits behind your current unit that the students can work on as they're progressing on their regular work. So there's all sorts of ways of integrating it. But you'll notice it's got math, science, social studies, English lessons, an interdisciplinary approach to STEM education. Which I think is, pretty interesting. It's also when you apply for STEM, STEM designated school status, they ask, how do you do interdisciplinary STEM? Well, look at Learning Blade, right? We're showing students welders, right? But we're showing them the math of welding, the science of welding, the social studies of welding. We're doing lessons on, mechatronics, which is the robots in the factories that are building things, that the wave of robot innovation is here and coming, and introducing students to that. So you can see there's about 10 hours of online curriculum, an hour for each circle. So as a teacher, I think of this as a giant buffet. When I do my in-person trainings, I hand out these diagrams and I say, highlight it. As you read through these diagrams, you find lessons that relate to something you want to teach. Maybe not the whole 8 hours of the mission, but definitely that career or this science lesson, or hey, math lessons that show, a deeper dive into how it's used in the real world. So looking at Hack Attack here, you can see students are learning about some pretty cool jobs, UI UX designer. And I bet a lot of teachers haven't heard of that, but a lot of students have never heard of that. But those are the people that are designing the interface, the look, the feel, right? We've heard a lot about Instagram and how it has its impacts on society. Well, there's UI UX designers on other platforms and Instagram that are designing how it works, right? And there's now, a movement towards designing things that are more socially responsible for young people. So UI UX designers, data scientists, right? English lesson, social studies lesson, female first in computing about Ada Lovelace, a science lesson, math lesson. So there's just a lot here. I want to point out that there's a little star next to one lesson on each circle. And that represents what we call the express mission. So some teachers, instead of doing the full mission, 8 to 10 hours, they will assign to their students the express mission. And they'll say, hey, students, we're going to do this express mission this quarter, this 9-week cycle or what have you. Um, and it only takes about 2 to 2.5 hours to complete an express mission. So you're still getting interdisciplinary. Here's a math, here's an English, here's a social studies, here's a science, but you're just doing one lesson per circle. And a lot of younger grades, like, if you're using this 5th, 6th grade, the express missions can be quite nice. Lastly, I just want to point out, we work with Gear Up. So I don't know if you have Gear Ups at your school. Your after school programs can use it. Your out of, your your out of time programs, or out of time. What am I trying to say? Your after school programs, local boys and girls clubs. So we're happy for anyone to have access to it, but really truly designed for that middle school 9th grade experience. This is what it looks like when students log in. They see the mission board. Hey, am I going to go to the full mission or the express mission? And then their teacher will tell them where to go. And that's what they can do. The teacher does have control over this page. They can remove squares so the student only sees the 1 or 2 missions you want them to go and see. And then once they choose a mission or an express mission, there's the hyperlinks to learn about the tools and teammates, the careers and technologies. You'll notice it's keeping score. There's a trophy. It's showing students their scorecard. They see their progress so they can take ownership of their grades. But at the same time, the teacher can also get all this graded input into their gradebook. So a teacher might say, hey, today we're learning about environmental engineers or what have you. Student will click on that and it launches lessons that are primarily based on the idea of reading informational text, right? About STEM careers, STEM technologies, computer science, CT pathways, but then answering academic questions in context. And that's the sauce, right, that we've mixed up. So it's keeping score as they go. It's got an audio track on every page, so it will machine read to your students. If you have ESL, ELL, low-level readers, it's covering that. And there's a lot of different styles of questions. So it's helping them prepare for that state exam, for that future ACT exam. It's giving them some of those skills. But most importantly, it's introducing students to those careers and technologies that maybe they've never heard of. Aligned to standards, so you're getting a standards performance report on your whole class, and you can actually search by standards. So here you can drop down to your state, pull up, we're aligned to all 50 state standards. We align every summer, so any updates that happen this summer, we're already updated. You can search by standard or keyword. Hey, lessons on density, lessons on exponents, lessons on, scientific notation. You could type it in and search for it here. You can find the lessons and assign the lessons. It's just a strategy I've been promoting for using Learning Blade as an anchor activity. As a teacher, there was always a moment where you needed something for those students to do who came and finished their project a day early, didn't have their materials for the project this day, were absent or quarantined. Gosh, Learning Blade for COVID quarantining, yes. So Learning Blade can be something that you can use as an anchor unit, eliminate that idle time, allow students a little bit of control. If you say do this mission, they can control how they complete it and which order they complete it. So a little bit of the background now, we've seen it, and then I'm gonna log in live, but we are statewide in Tennessee, Arkansas, Missouri, Alabama, Idaho, Louisiana, large contracts in other states. Millions of lessons have been completed in Learning Blade. And because of that, we actually have pre and post survey data before students ever logged in, after they've logged in and spent a couple hours in Learning Blade. And so these are the results I can almost guarantee, because we've done this surveys year after year. This is our 8th year providing it. It's the same. Students that log in, increased knowledge and interest in careers. Look at a doubling nationally when we pull all the data together of students interested in becoming an engineer or scientist. Oh, the trees in the forest, I see them now. Engineering careers, STEM careers, science careers. Oh, I see what those mean. An increase in students' interest in careers in computer science. Computer science, high demand, high wage. We want to expose our students to those things. But really, look at this, a 69% increase after using Learning Blade and students recognizing what I'm learning in school will be useful later in life. Relevance, connectivity, the connective tissue. Well, what teacher, when will I ever use this? Oh, I'm starting to see it's useful for my future. Even recognizing that increase in math is solving interesting problems. Catherine Kendall did her own independent research on Learning Blade, looked at 2 schools, which might be the case with you guys. Early adopters, this is the first webinar statewide for Learning Blade. So you're the early adopters. Your schools, your students, if you use Learning Blade, are probably going to be something similar to 100+% more likely to understand what a STEM worker does. What does STEM mean in the real world? Not STEM, the acronym, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, but what does STEM look like in the real world? So we're excited to share this with you. I surveyed over 2,000 teachers last year. 91% of them replied that Learning Blade's helping their students visualize themselves in STEM career paths. And 93 and 92% say it's providing practical examples of math and science concepts. That's what we wanted to do, so it's working. It's good, that's great data. So let me log in and show you the steps here. So step 1, you'd want to come to learningblade.com/ms and fill out a form. You know, I want a new account for my school or a new account for my district, who you are, and whether or not you use Clever or Schoology, and click send. And we'll create your accounts for you and send it to you, and you can share that with your district. Then we generally, once you fill out this form, we call you and try and schedule training, right? Today's an introduction, very similar to the training, but the training actually has the teachers. Let's log in now. Let's do the steps I'm about to show you on the teacher side, creating classes, assigning lessons, searching for standards. So we cover that in the training. And then once you have your account, you're just going to log in at learningblade.com or Clever or Schoology and log into your account. So I'm going to go ahead and log in as a teacher. And here I am, and I can create my classes. Oops. So I can click on the Create a Class button, and I can make a new class, right? Mississippi Early. Oh my goodness, my fingers aren't working. Early, oh, hello. Early adopters. That's you guys. So I created a class for you guys. As soon as I have it, I can see my class code, which I can use to directly log students into my classes and class roles. When I get into my class, I can add assignments. So I can say, oh yeah, I definitely want my students to do the Haiti orphanage mission. Absolutely. Or I want to look at the engineering careers in Learning Blade. Let's assign some engineering careers to my students since engineering week's coming up. So I assign some engineering careers, or I could come and look at standards and say, you know, I really want to reinforce this standard. I've been working on it with class, or my peers are doing this math standard, and I'm, you know, the STEM teacher or what have you, and I want to reinforce what they're doing in math class, in my class. So that'd be cool. It'd be awesome if the science teacher and math teacher were linked up doing a little science math standard alignment. So here you go. Here's an 8th grade standard on understanding the Pythagorean theorem. So I could search for lessons like that. 8.G.9 is the volume of cones and cylinders. So I can search for lessons that way. And you know, you can click on the standard and you can see the standard title, and you could assign the standard, right? Or I could type in a keyword, density. Click go. And find lessons that cover the concept of density, like our lesson on swim propulsion, the physics of swimming, right? What floats your boat? So looking at density, buoyancy, so on and so forth. Any questions, put them in the chat box or unmute yourself, happy to answer. And then lastly, on the resources page, this is where we have the training videos, so teachers can get access to those. We have all of the outlines for the missions that the teachers can get there. We have lessons for 3D printers, which are pretty amazing. So here's like having students design the blades of a wind turbine. comes with the STL file, so on and so forth. So with the training video included, the STL lesson plan, all of that. And then we even have made video lessons. It's free, Gracie. Free. Yep, I'm gonna say that to everyone. So it's been provided by the governor through the GEAR funding, and the mechanism by which we're giving out is through the University of Southern Mississippi. And so, nope. So yeah, there's no charge. There's no charge for training, scheduling trainings. There's no charges. Let me see. Okay. Yep. Sure, if the full use. Yep, full use of Learning Blade. Absolutely. When you fill out that form, we just send you what's called a full site license. We actually don't have any other type of license. We just give the full thing. So, so teachers can do, so self-paced training. If teachers want to do their own training, here's the videos right here. So they can just do that. We also schedule webinars. So for example, this one's being recorded and will be sent back to you all. So you could share that with your teachers. Or you can email me anytime, joshua@learningblade.com. And my job's really to do trainings and schedule them. So that's what I like to do. So yeah, we can do synchronous training, asynchronous. We can just work with your schools, your district as you see fit. You tell me, and then our team will respond as, how do you want to have it done? So I've done 60-minute trainings is generally the, so in the LMS, yeah, well, Schoology, right? So it connects to Schoology and Clever. And also, let me show you that on the reporting side. So when you have a class of students, good question. Who wrote that question? Susie, that was also Susie, thank you. On the reporting side, you can click on it and it's not gonna communicate directly with your LMS for the grades. But what you can see here is you can see what your students completed. You can see their scores. And then there is an Excel button where you can export the grades of the students and put that, so you can sort it by name, sort it by last name, sort it by date completed, and then you have all of that data there. So I hope that answers your question. Sylvia, sorry, that was Sylvia. Good question, Sylvia. But I think, you know, I think I've answered your question. Let me know, Sylvia, if I have not in the chat box. So I just showed you the reports, just going to go through the resources page and then log in as a student to wrap it up. But so we have those lessons for 3D printers. There's really, essentially, there's 12 missions. So for each mission, we've got this extra resource. We've got mission challenge, we've got 3D printing lessons. We have design thinking lessons. So here's an example. Everyone's heard of the egg drop. So we're not going to write that lesson plan for you because you've heard of it, but we're going to do something different. It's called the Potato Chip Challenge. So here's the lesson plan with the teacher guide and teacher instructions. Here's the challenge called the Potato Chip Challenge, where you give students a single one Pringle. And you say, build a container to protect your Pringle, and then ship it through the mail or carry it in your backpack for a week, and then have a big reveal party of their Pringle. Did it survive? We have handouts that are accessing prior knowledge about packaging and food and transportation careers and logistics, some resources on food packaging and things of that nature. And then really getting into the challenge. They're going to choose their challenge, talk about their inspiration. Why does packaging matter? Any experience that they've had with poor packaging. Define the problem. What are the characteristics of my Pringle? Why is this a challenge? What's challenging about it? It's soft, it's delicate, it's curved, it's, you know, it's lightweight, it's all these different things. Here's your student handout for their brainstorm map in a team. Well, how could we do this? Let's brainstorm different ways and take notes on that. All right, we're going to prototype our solution. So we're going to draw sketches and designs for our idea before we implement our idea. And then we're going to test it, right? Send it through the USPS. Did your Pringle survive? And we have the rubrics here and the standards alignment. And so all of that good stuff. That's just one lesson plan, right? We've got design thinking challenges for every mission. CTE teachers and in 9th grade, I'll just say I talk about middle school a lot, former middle school teacher. Learning Blade's really sweet spot is 8th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade. But um, if you teach 9th grade, you've got an ag teacher. We've got ag lessons. You got engineering teacher or PLTW teacher. PLTW loves Learning Blade as a take-home resource. You've got engineering lessons. Fax teachers. We've got our business lessons. We've got our economics lessons. We've got our fresh food lessons and our health science lessons. So plant and animal science, business. So computer science. Over 100 computer science lessons in Learning Blade. I'll just show you that one. The breakdown of that. So social media, mobile apps, cloud computing, cybersecurity, robot development, web developer, big data, UI UX, software engineer, computers, database administrator, information security analyst, all sorts of stuff here. Okay, then we have our mission challenges. This was actually, our resource page keeps getting bigger as we think of new fun ways to engage students. But mission challenges was our first resource. It was sort of our way of saying, well, we got the online STEM, the engagement around the careers, technologies, standards. We got to have the offline. If you're STEM, you got to do the hands-on. So we designed simple hands-on projects for students to do. In our dolphin rescue, they're building a prosthetic dolphin tail and playing with rulers and pencils and pennies, all easily accessible resources to practice balance, forces, and motion, right? In our energy sources, they're using recyclable water bottles to build a wind turbine with paper and a water bottle. In our fresh food, we're having them do a soil sample and understand the different horizons, but also play a game as if you're in a co-op and you have money for budgeting for marketing and money for planting. And then there's a formula, a math formula, and depending on what everyone does, changes the outcomes of the game. So we have all these different things. This is available for the entire school year. That is correct. And if I can, Sylvia, we also, I'm not promising anything, but our track record is to continuously find support for the program. So we're in our 7th year in Tennessee, our 6th year in Arkansas, our 4th year in Missouri, going into 3rd year in Alabama, South Carolina. So what we have found is that the results, that the performance and usage, we're hoping for more. But right now, correct, you got it for the whole school year. So mission challenges, let me show you one. Haiti orphanage, here's one. So we actually, Haiti's in the news again today. You know, Haiti's got some challenges, most challenged place in the Western Hemisphere. But we have lessons here on interviewing, writing a blog post, doing a construction activity, and then doing an experiment. So let me show you some of that hands-on stuff. We have students using marshmallows and toothpicks, probably $3 at the supermarket, and enough supplies there to build structures, but then shake them, right? Put them on a table or put them on something and shake it and see who survives. So that's a fun hands-on activity with discussion questions provided and rubric provided. We have a design an orphanage where students are using their mapping skills and graphing, right? Here's your orphanage footprint. Here's your orphanage things that need to be designed into it. So this is what architects do, right? This is how you design a home or build a building, is how much space do you need? How much space do you have? What are you going to build? What are you going to put into it? So sort of going through those things. So we got those mission challenges. For each mission, I mean, I can't show you them all. I wish I could, but there's so much here. Paper craft, these are super fun. The students that are just into paper, you know, origami or Minecraft, every career has a little net diagram that you fold up, and the technologies have diagrams that fold up, but you can fold up fold up the career and collect the thing. So I like to think of these as my right before Thanksgiving activity, right? Don't want to start a new unit. Just took a quiz on Tuesday, on Wednesday. What are we doing? Let's do some paper craft. Let's, you know, talk about some of the stuff you've learned, but have a little bit of fun while we're doing it. Working on those fine motor skills. And then STEM for parents, parent activities. So, you know, if you do the fresh food, this is a sort of a classic conversation starter in the food, getting people to talk about food is like that tomato that's on your table, You ever stop and think where your food comes from? Stop to think how far the tomato has traveled? How many different careers? So now here's the idea. Students have finished the Fresh Food Express mission. They've learned about all the careers and technologies. They're going home and now they're showing off. They've learned about, aquaponics careers. They've learned about transportation careers. They've learned about the microbiologist who works on the food to make them better and stronger. They're going to talk about all these different things that people don't often traditionally think about when they take a bite of a tomato. So conversation starter, additional resources if anyone wants to learn more and talk at home, an at-home lab idea, which also could be an in-classroom lab, and then the homework slip. I've used these in my classroom. Students, go home, get a signature, have a conversation. Parents like it, because what does a middle schooler say when you ask them, what'd you learn in school today? Nothing. And so here you're turning that on its head. I got to talk to you about what I'm learning, what I'm doing. So that's what you have in Learning Blade. And now quickly a student view. I'm going to switch on over to the student view. We have the hyperlinks are here for the teachers to copy direct into your Google Classroom. But if the student goes into, say, the full energy mission, they then can see the tools and teammates. They can see what they've started, what they haven't started. If they click on environmental protection specialist, for example, and this math lesson, keeping it clean, there's going to be reading pages of reading informational text, audio track on every page. Stars are the number of questions they'll be asking. And as they go through it, in this case, they're actually going to learn about fuel economy and how that works, right? So miles per gallon, which is, not every kid can do that or calculate that, but I don't know about you, but when I drive my car and fill it up at the gas station, I look at how many miles I've driven and how much I fill, and I sort of just do a quick mental math because I love thinking about math. Right? So here students would break out a paper and pencil and solve themselves the problem. If they get it wrong, they cannot go forward. Got to try twice. If you get it wrong twice, you get to go forward, but you've lost credit. You've lost points. Every question, and this is critical for self-paced student learning, every question is followed by the correct answer. It's also part of why sometimes for RTI or advisory and electives Learning Blade works, because you want something that all the teachers can use simultaneously, but the English teacher saying, hey, I'm not a math teacher. Well, every question is followed by the correct answer. And so students can work and learn about the technologies and careers as they're going through this. So there's all sorts of lessons in Learning Blade. There's even video lessons. Video lessons are short. Read a page of text, watch a 2-minute video about the career, in this case, 1-minute video, answer questions, what you heard in that video, right? Got it wrong, got some information back here. And getting it wrong, getting the right answer, and seeing that potential earnings, which I think is pretty cool for students. So there's video lessons, there's math lessons, there's English lessons. I just think this is what makes Learning Blade unique is that you can get in here and see, as we're reading about the Environmental Protection Agency and how to become one, we're asking, questions about the text that they just read and do they understand it? And so then, sort of there'll be word choice questions. What's the main clause? That sounds like an English standard, identifying main clauses, right? And so on and so forth. So they're learning about STEM, they're learning about Earth Day, they're learning about these things, and then here's a multi-step question, right? Order these sentences using the transition words. So I can't show you all 400 online lessons because there's just so many of them, but I just wanted you to see a brief taste. And that was just one career, environmental protection specialist. So obviously there's 100 of these STEM careers and technologies that you could use to supplement your class and get students reading, learning, but connecting it to the real world problem solving that's going on. That's really the short introduction to Learning Blade. Tried to show you all of it, the online, the offline. Are there any questions? Now would be a great time to unmute yourselves if you would like, ask questions.